We'll call the special meeting of the Board of Trustees, May 19th, 2015 to order. Roll call, please.
Veronica Frankel,
Present.
Howard Rosenberg,
Present.
Lisa Ruggiero,
Present.
Nick Smith,
Excused, he'll be late.
Angela Taylor,
Excused.
John Mayer,
Here.
and Barbara McClory. We do have a quorum.
Okay. Let's stand for the pledge. And one of my former students is joining us today. I taught him in sixth grade. Best sixth grade student I've ever had.
I think he means it.
I do mean it. I do mean it.
Where is
He's going to,
Oh,
he's going to, you and Lisa, I taught her when she was in first grade.
So I am
You
the
guys can have a
best
reunion.
Oh.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rick will be substituting for me tomorrow. I think I've introduced you to him, and that's why I brought him here. So with that, I imagine he's going to take us.
Okay. Is there any public comment cards? No? No public comment, so we'll go on to the next item, which is item 2.01.
Mr. President, we need to adopt the agenda.
Oh, okay.
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, 2.01. Discussion and possible approval of the community survey instrument to be used to obtain community input in order to ascertain the desired characteristics of a person to be selected as superintendent for the Washoe County School District for discussion and possible action. Don Huckabee and Katie Simon Holland and Sarah Hart.
Good afternoon, President Mayor, Interim Superintendent Davis, and Board of Trustees. My name's Dawn Huckabee, Chief Human Resources Officer, and I'm pleased to be before you today in the next step of the process that we've been going through around development of a community survey for the purpose of ascertaining the desired characteristics of a person to be selected as our next superintendent. With me will be Katie Simon Holland and Sarah Hart. I'm not sure if they're running late or maybe stuck in traffic because I know it's horrendous traffic around town. But I'll just briefly give you kind of the background of how we got to this point. At the last board meeting, we went over with the hiring of someone to put together this survey, which was Simon and Associates in conjunction with InfoSearch International. And they henceforth were able to meet with some of the trustees and develop for your consideration today the survey questions. I know they have a full presentation for you, and at the last board meeting, what was discussed is that all board members wanted to have an opportunity to look at those survey questions. Hence, we scheduled this special board meeting today so that everyone can review them. I'm going to try to reach them and see if I can get a hold of them because I have their their phone number here in my phone. And I don't know if the trustees have had an opportunity, because I know this information just came to you and we have copies out front for the public as well. But you'll be able to take a look at those questions and then we'll go through the PowerPoint presentation.
You want to take a break?
Could we?
Yes.
And then I'll try to see where they are if they're stuck in traffic.
Okay. We'll recess this for 10 minutes.
Thank
Let's
you.
say 12:15. We'll
Perfect. Thank you.
Don Huckabee was at the table, and
President Mayor, Interim Superintendent Davis, members of the board, I'm Dawn Huckabee, Chief Human Resources. Thank you so much. We're back, and I would like, without further delay, to ask Katie Simon Holland of Simon & Associates to come forward with her presentation to you for this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. President, trustees, council, Interim Superintendent Davis, Katie Simon Holland for the record. First off, my sincere apologies. I should know better than to count on my memory for anything and should have checked the agenda, so my apologies. So since we last met, I know Dawn has caught you up on our update of our process, and we have a, here's the clip. We have a short PowerPoint for you, and my colleague Sarah Hart from InfoSearch International also had the meeting at 1 o'clock, so she is also on her way, but I will proceed. As you will recall, we did have interviews with board members, and again, I was not able to connect with Trustee Smith, unfortunately, but we do have a summary of some of that information for you. So today, what we want to do is review the summary of your input about the desired profile of the ideal superintendent candidate. And our real action today is to review and possibly approve the proposed community survey questions. And we've actually provided you a draft of the survey, and we've gone over a lot of that. Sarah and I have gone back and forth, have shared some of that with the staff, but want you to have it be the way you want it to be. And then want to review with you the promotion plan for encouraging community participation in the survey, and then talk about the timeline and the next steps. So again, we interviewed you all the week of May 4th. And the biggest challenges for the next superintendent that you all identified, and these are of course not unanimous kinds of comments, these are themes that we got from the conversations with you all. First of all, big challenge for the next superintendent is rebuilding public confidence, and of course there's lots of public confidence, so it's building on the public confidence in the district that already exists, and continuing to build that confidence. Second, accommodating the significant population growth and managing school construction and repair needs. And of course, you all know, and you've been very intimately involved in the projections for student population growth in this region. The next superintendent will have a significant job in managing those construction as well as maintenance and repair needs. And of course, a lot will depend on what the funding sources are for those activities. And then third, continuing to build that positive culture that exists here at the district, and really continuing to bring the district together as a team. The next superintendent will probably have some of his or her own team members that will be coming into the district, or at least being hired going into the future, making sure that that teamwork occurs. And just on a personal note, I want to give my kudos and thanks to the professional staff that I have worked with at the school district, as well as the trustees. You have, as you know, an outstanding team here, and I have been just delighted and impressed with the professionalism, the responsiveness, the courtesy, and respect of your district staff. And I also want to thank you for the wonderful courtesy and professionalism that you all extended to me. I know that each of you is a person of great integrity and intention, and it's really makes me proud as a citizen to know who's leading our district. So I wanted to put that note in for all of you. Most important areas of expertise. Again, this is a summary of the board members' comments to me. This one was universal: classroom experience and instructional knowledge. And I think all of us can recognize there are a lot of dimensions to classroom experience. It isn't just necessarily having been a teacher, but it may also include curriculum development, evaluation, development of teachers, all of those things that are involved in that classroom experience nomenclature. Second, financial management, budgeting and priority setting. Over and over, I heard from trustees that you recognize the complexity of this district as an organization and as a business enterprise. And it is critically important that the next superintendent have that knowledge and that expertise, experience in working with a large and complex organization. And that is, in fact, the third bullet, managing a large and complex organization. And to that, I would add that reports to a board, and particularly an elected board. We all recognize that there are, and I certainly recognize there are distinctions in reporting to an elected board and in managing an organization of this complexity. So you all were looking for someone that has that expertise in their experience. And then also heard loud and clear about diversity and the diverse population of students that our next superintendent and our entire district team works with and must work with effectively. And it's not just working with the diverse population of students, but it's also working with a diverse population of constituencies. We have lots of folks, parents, employers, community leaders, donors, supporters, people who come from a variety of arenas, including folks who are non-English speaking. We have a lot of folks that we want to reach out to, and again, it will be important for the next superintendent to work effectively with that diverse population. Most important skills, and I thought this was really, really telling. Not every organization and not every board recognizes the importance of visioning and strategic planning and that eye on the horizon. And I heard that from you all, that you want to have that skill with visioning, strategic planning, as well as inspiring the team to join in with that vision. Very important. We know from national literature in any enterprise that inspiring others to join the vision is a key leadership quality, and it was certainly referenced by you all as being important. Again, that ability to relate well to diverse people, listening and interpersonal communication, and that covers a broad range of things. May I just get a tissue? I ran. Thank you, Trustee Taylor. You would not have wanted to see me at 10 after 12. So. Oh, that's another one of those skills for the next leader of the district. Thank you. Get dressed fast. Okay. Anyway, listening and interpersonal communication covered a wide range of skills and qualities that you all mentioned. It included being honest and direct in communication, being straightforward, being able to receive feedback as well as give feedback. I like to call it sending the mail to the right address. If you have a problem with me, tell me about it. Come talk to me about it. That openness of communication and that willingness to be a partner in a constructive dialogue. And all of that came under the listening and interpersonal communication. And then, of course, management and leadership skills, the ability to hire and also develop and lead an outstanding staff. And we'll talk about this in a moment. One of the comments one of the trustees made was that it's as important to develop our teachers as it is to develop our students, and that we have to be intentional and very focused on that, as well as the work we do with our students. Most important values and personal qualities, and of course honesty and integrity topped the list. Trustworthiness, can I count on what you say? Can I take it to the bank? Are you a keeper of the promises that you make? Do you make requests of me and then tell me how you can help me meet them, or how we can help each other meet them? And again, deep concern for all our children. The whole child and all of our children were terms that I heard over and over again from trustees. That it's that passion about and focus on our students that makes a great superintendent. Not necessarily financial management skills and managing a complex organization, but at the heart of it is that deep concern for all of our children. Compassion and kindness. We have we have been on the run in this district, working to achieve goals and raise the bar, and you've done that. And the staff has worked so hard, as you know, and they have been running for quite some time. And there was conversation by trustees that that new superintendent should be a compassionate person who demonstrates kindness and that willingness to exhale for a moment and let the staff exhale for a moment. Respect. And Sarah Hart, who is also on her way but was less ready to get here than I was. Apologies again. When Sarah and I talked about this notion of respect, she reminded me, there are two sides to that respect equation. One side is, can I respect you? Do I respect you? And the other is, do you have respect for other people? Are you respectful, and are you respect worthy? And I thought that was an interesting sort of paradox and dynamic, and it follows. When I am respectful to others, they are more respectful towards me, but it's not always the same meaning to everyone. Collaboration and commitment to forging partnerships. Again, we have seen how important in the strategic plan and in the work of this district that partnerships have become, and that collaborative spirit. And that collaboration extended not only to partnerships in the community or with various levels within the organization, but also collaboration with the board. And feeling that the board is a partner with shared goals and that we are all on that same team. Desire to make people feel heard and supported, again, extending throughout the organization and out into the community. And I loved that passion for excellence. It's interesting, I have had the opportunity to work in many organizations, and many leaders assume that everyone is thinking about excellence. But if the leader isn't talking about it, sometimes it's not explicit. If the leader isn't saying, we are passionate about excellence, how can we be more excellent today? Oh, thank you. How can we set higher goals? How can we better equip ourselves to have that excellent outcome that we're all accountable for and that we're all committed to? So I loved that. And then again, that visionary term. Ideal leadership style, again, words that came across were participative decision-making, collaborate, openness, a willingness to receive feedback, ethical, a person of strong character. And I thought this one was very important. A good leader who can balance internal leadership and management skills with that external focus on community partnerships. And I often observe in other organizations that balance can get out of whack quite easily. Sometimes people are much more comfortable with one part of that than the other. And really, a great leader in a public organization, and especially a school district, has to have both of those things. Be able to manage well and lead internally, and also be outwardly focused. Heard words like positive, forward thinking. Again, this word inclusive, someone who is including and working effectively with all constituencies. Decisive, someone who can look at the information that's presented and make a decision and move forward. And then again, this notion of developing teachers like we develop students. Able to lead the entire district in all its complexity. And that means all the levels of schools, it means all the specialties that we have to know about, it means all the regulatory environment, it means the HR and personnel issues, it means the legal environment, the tax and revenue environment. Quite a complex organization, and able to rise to that. Again, totally committed to the success of all our children and viewing the board as a partner with shared goals. I wanted to reinforce again that the purpose of our survey is not to have a statistically significant representative sample. We did not aim to, and nor will we have a process that will produce, here's what the statistical majority of Washoe County residents think. What we heard from you is that we want the widest possible input. We want to encourage the widest possible engagement and participation by the public. So that is our mission. And I also heard from you all that really the selection and appointment of your superintendent is the most important decision this board makes.
Absolutely.
It is the most important thing you do. You have the superintendent and technically one other employee, the internal auditor, but your superintendent is the person that translates your vision and your will. Hi, Sarah. You can come on up. Translates your vision and your will into action. And translating that vision into action is clearly an important responsibility. It is the most important decision you make, and listening to the community has been identified as a priority of this board. You wanted to have community, the ear of the, or you wanted to be the ear of the community. You wanted to have the community's voice in this process. Also, the purpose of the survey, again, used to help the board identify the best candidate, but also we have learned through this process that these results can also help guide the focus of the next superintendent. And the information that you have shared, as well as the information that the community provides, can help that superintendent to know what the requests and expectations are. Your timing was perfect. Proposed survey questions. So you have before you the final draft, and it is a draft, and it should say draft, of the Washoe County School District Superintendent Survey. And we will go through this. Just a couple of notes. We will have a paper and pencil version. I did just hear from the City of Reno and have heard from Boys and Girls Club, the Children's Cabinet, and the Washoe County Library System that they're all happy to have paper and pencil versions available so that folks can complete those paper and pencil. We will have it in English and Spanish, and your staff is going to be translating it into Spanish. We will launch the survey next Tuesday, because we have to have time, once you approve it, if you approve it today, to get it translated, printed for paper and pencil copies, loaded into the InfoSearch technology system, emails to go out, all of that work to get done. So we will launch it next Tuesday. For the online version, we will have it close Thursday, June 18th. So we'll have plenty of time for people to be able to get to the survey. In the InfoSearch database, they can also and will send a reminder to folks in their database if there hasn't been a response. So we'll be doing that follow-up to get to drive people to the online version. On the paper and pencil version, there will also be the link to the website for the online version. So somebody could pick up a paper and pencil version and still go do the online if they want to. We aren't, because this is not a statistically significant representative sample, it is possible that people can send us more than one. And that's okay. It's just, that's the way it is. We can, and Sarah, you can tell me, does your system prevent a response from the same computer?
I don't know if it matters. It does prevent it from the same email address.
Okay.
So it can block that as a duplicate. But if people choose instead to go to the website, not our website, your website, Washoe County School District's website, if there's a little button on it there that says take survey, they can click it multiple times, and that would be beyond our control.
But again, when we look at the content of the survey, you know, how bad of a thing is it to have 3 from the same person saying that, you know, vision is important. So we're less concerned about that, but I did want to let you know that. We will actually have to have the paper and pencil versions back a couple of days earlier, because all of those will have to be manually data entered. And again, as you know, we have open-ended questions, so all of that will have to be manually entered, and some of it will probably need to be translated. So we're trying to schedule everything so that it will work for you. So let's go to the first page, specialized skills. And based on what we heard from the board, and I want to just give kudos, Dawn and I, your HR chief, and I had a conversation, as Sarah and I have had many conversations, what's a skill, what's expertise, and what's a personal quality? And you know what, at the end of the day, what difference does it make? Really, it doesn't really make that much difference. The notion of expertise as distinct from skills is just that expertise means you've actually demonstrated those skills and put them in action, and you have experience utilizing them. But I just want to put that out there. There's no magic. Is it a skill? Is it an expertise? Is it a characteristic? So we have made the executive decision to call these various things skills. And actually, we've worked at it a lot and gone back to your comments to us repeatedly to make sure we captured what you want. So these are in alphabetical order, and each set of the things we're asking about to rank are in alphabetical order. We're not saying financial management skills are more important than interpersonal communication. They're just F comes before I in the alphabet. So under our specialized skills, we're asking folks to rank from highest to lowest the following 7 skills. So what are the most important? And we know, and I hate this when I get a forced choice, I have to pick between 1 and 2. I don't want to pick between 1 and 2.
Right.
We recognize these are all important things. What's most important? And Sarah and I have had conversations about, do we just throw 15 things up there and ask them to pick 5? But that probably doesn't give you the sensitivity and the prioritization that you're looking for. So we are asking that they rank 1 to 7, highest to lowest. Financial management, interpersonal communication skills, organizational management skills, people management skills, planning and visioning, problem solving, and teaching. And I welcome your feedback, questions. Trustee Rosenberg.
Perhaps at the beginning of where it says important, say these are alphabetically ranked.
Okay,
Just so that people recognize.
that's
that-
good. That's great, thank you. Okay. Excellent. Okay, on the next page, then we have areas of expertise. And this is, again, rank highest to lowest 8 things. And we'll add the same statement there, alphabetical order. Budget development, financial management, classroom experience, instruction, curriculum development, community leadership and community partnerships, government affairs, educational policy, labor relations, personnel management, leadership development, public relations, media relations, strategic planning, and implementation. And welcome feedback, Trustee Frankel.
Yes, one of the things I noticed, and it's very challenging to combine all of these things, and I could see the relationship between a number of the things before and after the commas. And I do see the relationship, for example, bullet 4, government affairs and educational policy, and I also see them as slightly different. And so I guess it all depends on kind of how we view government affairs. So when I think of educational policy, I think of sort of a broader understanding of educational policy, and I think of government affairs, I think of that ability to work with government leaders in the legislature, et cetera, so more broadly. So one thought I had was to split those two, and that's similar to my point about the 6th bullet, personnel management and leadership development, because I also see those as potentially definitely overlapping, but also distinct, because you can manage personnel without necessarily developing leaders and doing it in a leadership way. I mean, so I think my suggestion would be, and would be to split those as well. If we did that without, others may have suggestions as well, we'd end up with 10. But that was just a thought that I had when I looked at this.
Yeah.
Is that too many?
Is there a,
Is that too many?
what Veronica is saying, is there too many that can throw the whole thing
I'll
off?
let our expert researcher,
I
and
don't-
Sarah, you should probably identify yourself for the record, too.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm Sarah Hart. I'm the Director of Research for InfoSearch International. Generally, people are great at ranking 3 items and good at ranking 5. It starts to get high about 8.
Okay.
And one of the issues I would point out is that sometimes there are definite differences in each of these words. Maybe I can give you an example, though, in terms of how surveys work. We sometimes have surveys where we ask about friendliness and courtesy and helpfulness, and those are absolutely different things.
Yeah.
But the ratings tend to be the same, because people have a short interaction, not the depth of knowledge. And so they say, in general, customer service was X. So here, from a community perspective, the knowledge about the difference between government affairs and educational policy is not as rich as yours. And so for them, they think, oh, regulations, government policy, that whole topic, where would that fall? So I think the key from a general community perspective, is it a key difference that you need to separate? Or is it something that kind of combined says, this is an important topic and where it ranks?
Other thoughts, Trustee Taylor?
Yes, Katie, my question is just around the word leadership. That came up in some of the comments that you mentioned that the trustees shared. Where is that? I know it says leadership development, and I see that maybe too deep, as Sarah's saying, and that was like developing the leadership in others. But where in these three areas do we have, our desire, or was it not to say we want this person to be a leader? Mm-hmm. Is that expressed anywhere? Perhaps it is, and as Sarah's saying, I'm just.
It's not elsewhere. We have, on the personal characteristics, we have qualities of leadership, but I hear what you're saying. What if we flipped leadership, development, and personnel management? I know leadership has a lot more than just personnel involved in it, but I agree with you that word is important.
So, I'm sorry, what's your recommendation then on that, Katie?
Well, I'm seeing it
Could I-
twice.
Okay, could I
Yeah.
put this in for what it may be worth? There's two forms that happen, management and leadership, and they are very, very, very different. Both of them have to work together, but you gotta have both of them. And how do you say it?
It's very tough, yeah.
Many of the specialized skills that you have on the previous slide they are leadership skills, things like planning and visioning, people management, problem solving, those interpersonal communication, those are all leadership skills. And so I think maybe that was that was the reaction I had to that other bullet on this slide we're looking at right now, which is that leadership development seemed to get lost behind personnel management. So maybe flipping those would address that. But I'm also hearing what Trustee Taylor is saying, Vice President Taylor is saying about leadership itself, not just developing others, but leadership itself. And so I guess flipping them would probably work for me, and maybe that same philosophy on alphabetical order would actually apply here, because leadership's L before P, so we could do those with some of these as well. But I don't know if that satisfies your thoughts on where leadership stands out there. But
I absolutely hear you, and it's not just leadership development.
Right.
It's leadership.
Leadership,
The,
right.
the challenge is that, as Sarah said, we're casting a wide net with people who may not have as much information as you do about what leadership is. So we're hopeful of teasing out what the average person would relate it to.
I agree.
So
I think
maybe-
we need to stay up here. Let's try to, from that 30,000-foot perspective. I think all of these equal leadership, all of these areas of expertise define leadership.
What if, as a suggestion, we, on that particular bullet, left out the word development, put leadership first, leadership and personnel management?
Right.
Would that work?
Yeah, I think so.
Sarah, how do you think that would work for our results purposes?
I think it's fine. We can do leadership and personnel management. I also concur that I think the whole thing is a leadership study, if you will. And we can make that more explicit on the cover page, where we ask, for this survey, please rank a variety of qualities and characteristics. We can expand on that, perhaps to say, please rank a variety of quality and characteristics that you think make a strong leader. To really emphasize that this is a study that we are looking for a strong leader to really drive home that point. Would that be helpful?
I mean, I was actually comfortable with what Katie suggested.
Okay.
Just first as saying leadership and personnel management.
Okay.
But I'm certainly willing to go with the feedback of others.
I like that suggestion, because it does convey, I think, our philosophy of why we're doing this and what we're exploring and wanting to hear more from the community about. So I like adding that kind of a phrasing.
Great, okay. All right, and then on the personal characteristics, which are the next page, we we got going on this and we couldn't stop. And again, we wanted to make sure we captured the key words that we heard from you all. Collaborative, compassionate, good listener, honest, inclusive, inspiring or inspirational.
You missed one, though.
What's that?
Walks on water.
Yes, exactly. I know, that's down after visionary.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that where it's coming? All right, fine.
Alphabetical.
Alphabetical.
Yeah. Intelligent
Right, it's a
and
lot.
passionate about excellence. That was a hard one. How do you put that into a, personal characteristic? So we just said the whole thing. Student focus, that was another hard one to come up with an adjective or a descriptive word that this person had a deep concern for all our students. But that was what we came up with: transparent, trustworthy, visionary. Are there any that we missed or any that we should drop off the list? In this one, we're just asking them to rank their top 6 because there's just too many. There's too many of them.
It's going to tell us an awful lot.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do in a survey for a lot of people because they have to go through a 2-step process. And we had actually, and Sarah, bless her heart, had written, very extensive, very clear instructions. Okay, go through and pick 6. Now go back and rank them. And I went, ah! But I think people are able to do this. Rank the top 6 from the following list of 13. And Sarah is comfortable that people will be able to do this, but we don't want them to rank 13 or 14. Your thoughts, reactions on this one? Did we miss anything, President Mayor?
Yes, in talking to people, and I keep little tally sheets, the most important thing to a lot of people is responsiveness.
Oh, good, okay.
They want, if they call the superintendent, or if they email them or write a letter, they want a response.
That's great.
And I think that's a characteristic that most people that I've talked to, I know it's a limited
That's
survey,
great.
but they would like to have a responsive person.
Good one. Thank you. Yes, we definitely would want to add that. You'll notice that respect is not there, and it's for that reason of the double meaning of, is it that I respect that person or they're respectful to me? So we left it with other terms. Any others that we're missing or ones that you would change? Yes, Trustee McClory.
When you were looking at all of these qualities, specialized skills, et cetera, did you look at the American Association of School Administrators, Superintendent Standards? Okay.
I did not.
Because I think that most everything is captured within that, and if you're going to look at major categories in relationship to leadership, all of those areas are generally defined: organizational management, the fiscal responsibility, the instructional knowledge, which is organizational knowledge beyond. In a school system, you truly need to know about the instructional issues that you find in every school. Do you have all the answers for them? No. When you're the leader of a group of teachers and you're working with children, there are some great intangibles that are measurable but are not necessarily put into a survey. So therein lies some of the subjectivity in relationship to looking at all of these characteristics and all of these skills and making a determination based on what your personal belief systems are as well. So I think it's very good to try and do something more objective, but in the final analysis, putting all of these things together really becomes a very personal kind of mission for each one of us, and then coming together as a group to determine whether or not we can settle upon whether or not everyone sees these characteristics in certain individuals. So I'm always interested to hear what people have to say about this, but what it finally comes down to is how much do you know? How nice are you? How much do you know about lifelong learning? And can you take all of that and put it into the context of a public school system to raise the level of excellence as a constant search and source of where we are going as a district? And that also is dependent upon your belief about continuous improvement, infused throughout the organization.
Well said, thank you. And certainly, we can take a look at those criteria on their website. We'll go back and I'll do that this afternoon. And I agree with you. I would imagine that most of it is captured here, but we certainly want to do that double check. And it's always, as Trustee Rosenberg said, walks on water. There are always trade-offs.
Right.
I might be
Right.
better at this than at that. But this will at least give us a sense of, from the community input, how did people prioritize some of those things that were important? And you may have things that are different, so. And then on the next page, I heard loud and clear from trustees that you wanted to have at least one open-ended question. We want to make sure that the open-ended questions do focus the respondent to the task at hand, which is the selection of the next superintendent. So we suggested 2 questions. What's the most important thing you want the Board of Trustees to know about the qualifications of the next superintendent? And then, is there anything else you would like to add to help the board in selecting the next superintendent? We didn't want to just say, is there anything else you would like to add?
No.
But I heard from you, you wanted people to have the opportunity to comment in their, in their wisdom. Are these okay for you? Are these?
Yes.
We had, Sarah had proposed one earlier. If you could ask the next superintendent one question, I think it was something like that, what would it be? That's another option. I wouldn't put 3 questions on
No.
here.
They won't do it.
Comfortable with these 2? Is that
I think
okay? Okay, all right. On the next several pages, we have demographic questions. And a note, all of the demographic questions except zip code will include a prefer not to answer option. We don't put that under zip code because in Sarah's experience, people, if they don't want to tell you their zip code, they'll leave it blank, or they'll put 00000 or 99999. So that's the only one we didn't put prefer not to answer. I would, yes?
Just a quick question about that. If they don't answer, it's not going to hold them up or keep them from being able to
No.
submit? Okay.
That'll be optional. All of these will be optional. And we do have the note at the top, the following questions are, and I don't know if classification purposes is the right word. As I talked with each of you, the conversation was about making sure that we at least understood how representative our responses were. So we do want to have some demographic. And I don't know if there's another word for saying that besides classification.
It's fairly standard to use that, but we can make it more friendly, like at the top, rather than use the term demographics, we said, tell us about you. And we could make it something similar like, the following questions are to help us understand more about you, or to help us understand more about who responded to the survey, something that's a little more friendly.
I think that would be better.
Yeah,
Yeah, about who responds to
Yeah.
the survey.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
softer.
I think that's good. And then I will welcome your assistance on describing the primary relationship to Washoe County School District. There is a much broader list of employee categorization and classification in your system. What we want to balance is, if we make it too specific, people may worry that there's too small of a sample and they will be identified and their comments are not anonymous. I was with a friend of mine who's a teacher in another district this weekend, and she was talking about the distinction between teachers and administrators, so we didn't want to just lump
Employee.
certificated, we didn't want to just say employee, and we didn't want to just lump everybody together. So we welcome your input on how to tease out how we should distinguish employee or if we should distinguish employees, how would we separate them if we make a distinction between one employee and another of the district?
Sarah, if I may, is there a number of categories or options that's, after a while, people are just going to say, forget it, or?
Not on demographics.
Demographics,
If
okay.
you've taken surveys, you've probably been asked to identify your state, and the fact that there's 50 there doesn't throw you. You know to look for yours.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's similar here. You can divide the employee into additional categories if it's a difference that would make a difference to you, because people will just look for the one that fits them.
Again, I think I want to make sure that we're respectful of them and not want them to think that it's so small that I may be identified, because it's really the feedback that we're looking for, and we want to encourage that and not discourage that.
And I have had it happen. I recently did a internal survey for employees in a small local government, and the number of people who responded from the rank and file was very small. We had distinguished between management and supervision, field professional personnel, office professional personnel at the general manager's request, and people just said, "I'm not answering that. You're not getting anything from me."
Okay. Why not just say Washoe County School District employee?
I went back to what?
Are
just
you? It's entirely up to you all.
Is that not good, sir?
Well, no, I think you can go either way. My understanding is that there's, I don't know how many employees you have, but if it's, 1,000 plus, and I believe it is, these having 3 categories is I think might help. I mean, I think that each one of these has hundreds in it, if I'm not mistaken, and so it's probably not going to identify them too much, even coupled with some of the other demographics. I mean, I imagine that there are numerous teachers who are, female age 35 to 44, or some other categorization that it's not necessarily going to identify the individual. If you are concerned about that they're too granular, we can combine them. It really is your choice, your wisdom.
And Dawn, I would welcome your input as well if you have any suggestions, or how we frame them.
Could I ask, what's the purpose of all this stuff? Do we really need this stuff?
I do think you need employee or not employee. I don't know if you need the rest of it. My sense is, and the comment I heard from the general manager I was working with, is that it's how people self-identify. And sometimes it's important to them that they self-identify in one group or another. But again, we want to do 2 things. We want to make sure you get information that you need. We also want to make sure that the public has faith in the results, and that your employees have faith in the results. So they will want to see how representative it is as well.
And there are 2 purposes generally in asking demographic questions. One is to describe who answers the survey, to talk about the frequencies of who has responded, to see if it's representative. The other, which is optional, is to see if there are statistically significant differences between groups. We don't have to do that additional step if you feel that would somehow be sensitive. But we can say, is there a difference in terms of how women and men prioritize some of these categories? Or in how a parent versus a student prioritizes some of these categories. And so we can absolutely look at that if you like, in addition to describing.
Sometimes I think when you ask race and age and, gender and those kinds of questions, people wonder what's going to happen to this information, and why do you need it? But to me, I ask the question, if you're going to do it, this is a fine form, but I ask the question, why, is it necessary to do this?
Well, and actually, I was just going to ask some questions specifically about those 3 categories, but then I do also want to kind of throw in my thoughts about the question you just asked, President Mayor. I just wanted to ask these 3 categories as listed of the employees, does that capture everyone that currently works? Would everyone in the organization that works for the organization be able to check off one of those three?
Yes.
Okay,
I
that's
think
one.
that could cover it.
Okay, and then the other comment I would have is that whether or not we necessarily use, I think that second piece of how this survey could be used that you mentioned in terms of informing the district and informing the next superintendent about the input and the perspective of the community, having these pieces of tell us about you can help us identify if there are statistically significant issues. Let's say the senior population has a certain perspective, it tells us as a board and as a superintendent and as communications, maybe there's some work we want to focus on in a certain way and target that community in a certain way. If we see some responses that are significantly different, statistically significantly different from other groups, that might shape how we communicate or work with that section of the community. So that's where I see it could be useful, not necessarily solely for the purpose of our role in, using this to define the characteristics that we're going to come up with for a superintendent, but it's information we have the opportunity to collect. So I think that it's useful in that regard.
So I
Oh,
guess,
were you answering that?
well, I was just going to say, one option to perhaps address both of your issues, all of the questions are optional, and they do have a prefer not to answer option, but we could drive that home in the instructions at the top, where right now we say the following questions are to help the board understand who responds to the survey, or to help. We could add or insert the word optional, the following optional questions, to really drive home.
Yes.
And I mean, it's there, it's implied, and there are prefer not to answer. But if you want to make it explicit, we can certainly do that.
Yes, I think that'd be good. Lisa?
So just to follow up on what President Mayer said, so I guess my question is this to you. So this truly is not a statistically sound survey. We've talked about that. And so, but now we're getting to the point where we're trying to get some statistical information where I'm hearing comments, well, we're going to compare. Is this coming from the business community, or is this coming from a man or a woman? So I feel like we need to go down this road and we put out a statistically sound document or survey, so I'm just a little confused on which route we're going, and I'm wondering if this is the avenue for that. I don't have an opinion either way, but I do want to point out that this isn't a statistically sound survey, but yet we're asking all this demographic information, and does that meet our purpose? And would this space be better used in asking an additional question towards the characteristics we're looking for in the superintendents? Because I see a couple of things missing here that Trustee McClory brought up. One is continuous improvement. Two, data. We haven't mentioned data. That's a huge role of the superintendent, because any decision we make in this boardroom is based off of data. And so I'm wondering if there's some key areas that we might be missing that this space could be used to address some of those key areas.
Would you
Mr.
like me to respond to that, or Trustee
Oh,
Rosenberg, do
well,
you want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead and respond to
Okay.
that first.
I'm absolutely sensitive to and appreciate those comments, and I really appreciate the richness of this dialogue and this conversation. Again, a lot of it depends on how the board talks about it later, how it's referenced later, how it's used later. But the purpose of asking the demographic questions is to see what are the groups that responded, and if we have 1,000 responses and 900 of them are from employees, then it's just information. It's not conclusive and it's not prescriptive. It's just data. So I think it is valuable to you to have that. I also shared with you all that when you take the time to do this, you will have all this information that you can use later. If you are going for ballot questions in the future, you will at least have this information. Again, it's not a representative sample, but it is a sample, and to the extent that we have demographic information, we'll have an understanding of of how that makeup of the responses went. In terms of your question about data, which is a good one, for me, data relates to strategic planning and implementation, and I would see putting it there. We'll find a way to put, yeah.
Well, I have a couple ideas, so that's one.
Okay, good.
That's one option. Another is on page 1, where we have 7, rather than kind of maxing it at 8. Is there a value in adding
it's page 2.
technological, oh, I'm sorry, page 2, under specialized skills, adding technological / data skills? Would that make sense? And I'm not sure. Also, you talked about continuous improvement, and when you were mentioning strategic planning and implementation on the other page, I see, from my world, continuous improvement being part of that, but we can make that explicit. The strategic planning, and maybe, I don't know if you want to keep implementation, but strategic planning and implementation, continuous improvement.
If I can just jump on that, okay.
No,
Okay.
she can talk first. It's all right.
Oh,
I
see,
don't mind.
And you talked
Joey's
about
guilt.
wanting the superintendent to walk on water, but if she or he couldn't, you'd put your coat down for him, because
Of
you're such a
course.
gentleman.
I'm a wonderful person.
And you're giving
That
her,
would ask me.
you're giving her first
Yes.
stab.
Well,
Yes.
I just, the only reason I jumped in is because I want to stay with where we are for this piece. The data-driven part that Trustee Ruggiero talked about, I think is really important. And so I think if we say data and technological skills, it could take us in a different direction than what
Okay.
she's saying. I mean, I think that's a really critical part. We're talking about making data-driven decisions.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
that's totally outside of their technological skills.
More related to strategy than.
Yeah, so I think it better fits in a different place, maybe part of what you said, Katie, but am I right, Lisa, speaking to your point? I
Yes.
think that's, because I think that was a point well
see.
made. We do data-driven decision-making, so that should be reflected.
I believe I may now say I will yield some of my time to Trustee Franco.
Just some. Yes.
No, actually, my suggestion would be that it might be in their specialized skills where we have problem solving. Maybe there's problem solving skills, which are a set of skills that also include decision making, but there's also data-driven decision-making skills. And so I don't know if you bring those two together, separate it out, but I would agree that I think what Trustee Ruggiero was getting at was not the technical side of it, but the using data to drive decision-making.
And important.
It's not about, can I build a Excel spreadsheet? It's
Right.
about, can I use the information, the data as information to
Right.
make better decisions? Got it. Okay.
If I may.
You only have
What-
1 second.
Oh,
left on your
shush.
time.
Trustee Ruggiero said it at the beginning. This needs to be at the 30,000-foot level. If we get too damn close to being picky, I don't think it's going to work the way we want it to work. We're collecting an awful lot of information. That's really all this is. For me, on that part, the self-identify is really important. Now, this is going to sound really picky, but I'm going to say it anyway. You've got WCSD employee, teacher, other certificate, certified. Then you've got employee administrator, and then at the very bottom of that list are the support people. I would put the support people number 1, then the teachers, then the administrators. It empowers certain people that I think need to be empowered. They know maybe more than anybody else does what it is that they want to see, because it makes their life and the management of what they have to manage that much easier. It's a little thing, but I think when I was on the Board of Regents, I didn't know how to self-identify. Am I Professor Rosenberg? Am I Regent Rosenberg? What the hell am I? And it was really difficult. And half the time when I got one of these things, I just didn't do it. It was easier.
You know, I really, the first page is all right, but I really have problems with the second page of all the statistics. You know, I hear my wife on, especially now when they have all these questions, surveys by phone, and they'll ask, are you married? And she'll say, what does that matter? You know, and what does age matter? And things like that. So I guess it's just in me, unless you've got a real good purpose for asking it, I don't think it should be in there, but
Sarah, do
that's
you want
just
to
me.
add any thoughts?
It's a choice. The issue is.
They don't have to answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also your choice in terms of whether you want to include it in the study. Again, it's used to describe who answered. If you wonder, is this heavily weighted toward a certain, age group or gender or racial group, and you want to know whether or not it was actually representative of the community, you won't necessarily know if you don't ask, or you definitely won't know if you don't ask. And so it's the trade-off. If you leave it out, it's okay. You just need to know up front that you won't have that data down the line if you wonder if it was representative along those lines.
If I may, I think it's important to have, I think we want to be able to disaggregate the data, because one of the main reasons for me is if we have a gap, we won't know. We won't know if we don't have a lot of people from a particular group or income, whatever the case may be. That means, and then maybe we learn from that, man, how we put this out didn't appeal to that group. And so we represent that group as well. I mean, so one of my main areas of concern is if we have a group that we've left off unintentionally, then we'd have no idea, and then they wouldn't have a voice.
That one.
Yes.
I don't know how to say it. There is no nefarious thing happening here. We are simply asking for information. And I don't know how you say it, or you just leave it to people's good sense.
I think we make it very clear that it's optional for anyone that may feel uncomfortable, because we
Right.
certainly want to respect that. But for those that are not uncomfortable, it at least gives us a chance, again, for me, it's like, are there gaps in this? And then what can we do in terms of being able to disaggregate it after the fact and learn, and learn from it. It may not be prescriptive, but we can certainly learn from it.
Just wanted to add, one of the questions that I had a division of opinion from you all on is, are you registered to vote in Washoe County? And we put it on there, and again, it's a question for you all. Do you want that on there or not? Again, we have said prefer not to answer. If you wanted my advice, I would take it off.
I would too. I would too, Katie. I would too.
I think that there are enough folks that we want to hear from that might be put off.
Yeah.
I mean, they get to that and they just delete, I'm not submitting this. I'm just concerned that that may
I
happen.
agree.
So,
I agree.
okay, so we'll take that one off.
That's the,
And then the remainder of them, I think we've had the conversation about.
right.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
I just have one other thought. I think we are missing, and I don't know how to say this in the right words as far as characteristics or expertise or skills, but you can't survive today in today's world without technology being at your core, and learning is not happening without technology being at the core of much of our learning. So how do we incorporate that new 21st century way of thinking and being in the world that must include technology? How do we ensure that, because we need a superintendent that embraces that type of learning, because it's how we function in today's world. So is that necessary for this survey, would be my question that I posed to you.
I have a thought about that. It kind of alludes back to what Trustee McClory was saying earlier. I think when it comes back to us and when we look at this information, that's part of the conversation I think we're going to need to have around how we take this information and then use it ourselves with the lens that we bring, which is, has been said, closer to it and probably has a great deal broader understanding of what we need, but this is going to be very informative to that. So I'm wondering if at that point we look at some of those questions. I mean, I think we could add in here something about, particularly under curriculum development, 21st century learning, but I'm not sure that if the general public's going to know what does that really mean.
Right.
I think we might understand what that means and could discuss how important that is. So I'm not sure where the best place for it to be, but I know we should definitely be talking about that. I'm not sure how it should fit into the survey, so I think it's a good point.
I think the public will wonder why it's not in there.
You do?
My opinion, yes, because I think it's a huge priority of the public.
21st century learning, that phrase,
Or just the use of technology, yes.
I don't see it.
Is there a way we could weave it into the classroom experience area of expertise?
Sure.
And maybe instruction and classroom experience are redundant, and we could put a technology modifier in there?
Sure, yes.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, we'll make that happen. Is that, Trustee McClory, I know you were quite concerned about making sure that we had the instructional knowledge and that broader base in there. I would welcome suggestions from many of the trustees on where you might put that and how you might phrase it.
It really, all of that belongs under instruction. Instructional knowledge, instructional skills, instructional leadership. And that's where the piece about the lifelong learner, in other words, we expect people to keep ahead of the trend as possible, or at least to know what those trends are. Blended learning, 21st century learning skills, whatever you want to call it. But once again, when you refine things, you can ask questions in relationship to each one of these, because what we don't have here are any of the indicators that would fulfill what those topics mean. So I don't want us to get too down into the weeds.
Right.
But if you, on the first page where it says specialized skills, I mean, I don't know how you change that, given what you have, but I mean, there are some of these things that are basically, organizational management skills is a topic in and of itself. I mean, it's got all kinds of things underneath it, and what you then end up with is you've got problem-solving skills, teaching skills, and some other things that are much more specific to a
Right.
particular topic. That's all I mean, and I don't have a personal preference one way or the other.
It really is. I think we're all faced with the same sort of crystal ball of trying to get into the mind of a wide variety of respondents
Right.
and understand through what lens are they looking at this question and this statement and what's important to them.
Well, and
So-
the other piece of it is where you have that open-ended question, what would you tell the board in relationship? If they do not see something that they are specifically interested in, that would be the opportunity for them to say, well, we need to have someone who's well aware and understands and can implement 21st century learning skills or something like that.
Sarah?
One phrase that Trustee Ruggiero used was forward thinking. And I did latch on to that in terms of potential personal characteristics. We actually don't capture that in our list here. We have 13, and then we're adding responsive. And would it make sense to add forward thinking? It just resonated with when you said it, and I wanted to bring that up.
But visionary, though,
We do have
the same
visionary. Is that the same thing?
I think so.
I don't,
It isn't for everybody. It's
No.
been my experience. Sometimes we used to have a county commissioner that referred to visioning processes as rainbow painting. So it was a long time ago.
yeah,
Who
it
was
was.
it?
I want to know who.
Tell us.
Dirt is my life.
But I don't want to divert. I think adding forward thinking is a great.
Or we could
love it.
we could put forward thinking and take visionary out. I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to bring it up because
I like it.
But with forward learn, you should add that forward thinking and lifelong learner, because you want somebody that's going to read journals and read research and be up on it, as well as far looking, forward thinking. Yes.
Why not put visionary and forward thinking on the same line?
okay,
Yeah.
like visionary / forward thinking.
Sure.
Okay.
And add one for lifelong learner. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, that was what I probably probably was the only one that wants that.
They just want to get the kids out of school, for God's sake. They don't want them to deal with lifelong learning.
As no hands go up, right?
Everybody in favor?
Any other on that section? We okay?
We're done.
Okay. We can come back if you have more brainstorms about that, because there is one, what I've framed as a policy question. It's just a question for the board, and this is the next question. And I want to frame this very specifically. We are not asking you as board members whether you want to have a search process. We're asking you whether you want us to ask people about it on the survey. And of course, we would not have any name referenced. When I spoke with you all about it, you were divided. So I thought I better ask you today before I eliminated it or added it. And
We know how I feel.
Council Malloy and I have kibitzed on this one a little bit, that we know it's an awkward question.
May I just add, Trustee Rosenberg's comment just now focuses the problem, it seems to me. And it isn't about whether any of you want to do it one way versus the other. It's, you want to know what the people answering these questions think about that, or leave it out.
Okay.
I also want to point out one other item. You'll see that I have in brackets the cost of a search process. Sarah's recommendation was that we not have that language, the cost of. If you have that question,
Yeah.
if you have that question in here,
Towards the back.
yeah, it's towards the back, yeah. If you have that question in here,
I don't have it in the packet,
You
but it's
don't?
on the slide.
I have it in my packet.
oh yeah, it's not, I
It's
didn't
in
put it,
this.
we didn't put it in the survey. We're asking the question. It's in the slide packet, sorry.
And on the slide.
And on the slide, that's, yes, on the board. And again, this is asking the public if they want to,
At this point, I think we're talking about the characteristics that we're looking for in a superintendent. That wasn't necessarily the intent. I think at this point, we need to stick to the focus on what the characteristics, the skills that we're looking for.
Okay.
That's my thought.
okay?
But my concern on this is, I think going further than I guess I'm willing to go right now. I'm going to agree with Trustee Rosario, and sticking to that piece, because I'm not sure what I think our next step should be until this should inform that next step. And the thing I don't want to do, one way or the other, quite frankly, is give the indication that the community feedback is going to dictate that step. And I wouldn't want to be misleading.
Okay. Am I getting the direction then that we would leave that question out of the survey? Any other?
Let's see, is that a consensus of the body?
Well, it's not my perspective. I think there's a part of me that would be interested in hearing perspective on that. I understand your point there in terms of what does that then do in terms of our options and how that is perceived and received. I think there's been general dialogue about that and question about how true it is one way or the other that people do or don't want what the next step should be a search. So I think this would answer that in some way, at least the insignificant sample that we would get in terms of responses. That would be the only reason for me to ask the question, so that we could hear that sentiment one way or the other, whether or not that informs our decision or not. But because I think there's been differences of opinion about what we think the community wants, and this would be a way of clarifying that, at least in terms of who responds. So I'm fine with not including it, but I'm just wanting that on the table. So if we talk about consensus, if we were to vote, I'd say I'd want to keep it in, but I'm fine taking it out.
Take it out.
Take it out. Take it out.
I know I missed a lot, and I apologize for being late. But just, maybe I missed it, but I think if we ask this question, then we need to ask the opposite question. Do you think we should do a search and forego an appointment process? You know, and maybe I missed that. I don't know if that was already asked, but.
That's great content. I think you're absolutely right, and that's also again, including words like forego the cost of a search process. It's presupposing somebody else's reasoning or where they are starting, the starting point for them. So I hear your point on that, Trustee Smith. I think what I'm hearing is it's not relevant to the qualities and characteristics of the ideal candidate, and I think that's a very material point, and that's what we told people the survey is for. So let's go ahead and leave that out. Okay, next point I wanted to go over with you is the proposed promotion plan. And I want to make sure the district staff knows we're trying to get the translation of this, and we'll have to go make all these edits. Do you have the ability to do that today, Sarah?
I have to kind of keep I have a 3 o'clock presentation this afternoon, so I need to be done by 2:30, but between now and then I can.
Okay, and then we'll get that finalized version to the staff. We need to get it translated so Sarah's team can get it into the database for production, and the school district to get it to printing. And then on Tuesday, we'll pull the launch on the online, and I will distribute the paper copies. So in order to make that happen, we need to have the translation occur. We have a cover letter that will go on the email and the printed version from President Mayer, and I don't know if did we get a draft to him of his invitation?
No, I thought you were going to.
Okay, I sent an email earlier and I didn't see a response. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I have some easy quotes for you that I'll run by you just as soon as we can, and we'll get that cover letter done. So we'll have it posted on the school district website. The school district's going to promote it on social media, and we'll include a link in the board newsletter that goes out. And then I spoke with your communications team, and the press release about this will come from Simon and Associates, not from the school district. We want to reinforce the independent nature of it.
Good. Fine.
So that's going to come from me, and I'll be requesting social media posts by folks like the Chamber and EDON and whoever we can get to do a social media post. We'll have the hard copies distributed, and again, I'll do that on Tuesday. We have had affirmative responses from the Boys and Girls Club, the Children's Cabinet, the Washoe County Library System, and from the City of Reno to have paper copies at the Neal Road and Evelyn Mount Community Centers. So we should be good to go. And again, if anybody wants to add anything to the promotion plan. Yes, ma'am.
Can we have hard copies at schools?
Yeah.
Available at schools as well?
It's up to,
Front desks or?
yeah.
We can try our very best to make that happen by next Tuesday.
That's a
Yeah,
big
it's in the that's a big,
undertaking.
yeah.
It
Well, but maybe
is.
if it isn't right then at the very beginning, because, I know you aren't just sitting around waiting for stuff to do, maybe just at some point, if it takes a few more days or another week or so, at some point there, and perhaps at the front desk here, at some time during
Probably
that
up-
time.
Yeah. There are pros and cons, because every paper copy that you get, and Sarah will have in the instructions on the paper copy the link to the online version. So if you'd rather take it online, please go to this
Go
link.
do it, sure.
Because it is a challenge. We want to have response, and we want to have paper and pencil, and it's definitely preferable if we can have them done online. But however you all want to do that internally, we'll all work to make that happen.
Nick, Mr.
I have
Thank
another
you,
question.
Irene.
I know the need to save trees, right, and save money, because I like that part. That being said, maybe Irene can answer, but can we activate the Connect Ed in all the schools? Was that already talked about? So something needs to go out. The parents are a voice that I think, yeah, we'll get an isolated group, but I just want to be sure we're overreaching, trying to get those parents, Connect Ed, paper copies, whatever it is that we need to do. And maybe more than one Connect Ed. I don't want to, sound like I'm selling, insurance, but something so we really can say we tried to connect with the parents.
And I know you've been getting them too, Nick. As a parent, I've been getting reminders about the current survey that's available. And so that is an effective process, because I actually get it 3 ways, probably because I have it checked off all 3 ways. I get a text, I get an email message, and I get a voice message. And so I think that process, whatever the families have set up in terms of notification from the district, would be a great one, because that goes out to every parent in the district. So I don't know, looking at the staff here, to say whether or not you think that that's
Irene,
connected.
Sorry, I was,
Yeah.
sorry.
Ask Irene the question you,
Can you help us to get information about the survey on Connect Ed? So every child who signed up for that, or every parent, will get a call saying, hey, please take.
So Irene, for the record, Irene Payne, Chief Communications and Community Engagement Officer. We don't normally use Connect Ed for that reason. So, I mean, it certainly can be done. It's, in total, it's 120-odd thousand phone calls, you know, automated phone calls. But we try to be very respectful with our parents and guardians in terms of the number of calls they get from the school district, because we regularly hear that they get an awful lot of calls from their school, and then when you put school district calls on top of that, it sometimes is a little bit onerous for parents and guardians. We try to use district-wide Connect Eds for very either urgent, vitally urgent, or vitally important information. Now, that's not saying we can't do it. If you direct me to do it, I can absolutely do that. But just bear it in mind that we haven't done that for previous surveys.
Just climate survey.
I think it's vitally important, but there's 7 of us. Maybe we could talk about it, because I think
Irene,
that's a step we should take.
Is there a way of saying, we know you get a lot of these things, but this is most important, please?
Yes, we
You
can
know, that
absolutely
kind of
say
thing.
that.
The Parent Climate Survey is currently going through that process, because I've been getting emails.
I've been
and
getting
phone
those too.
reminders from it. So I know that's an experience that as a parent I've had around surveys. And there's been other calls from the district in the past, over the 13 years I've been involved with the district as a parent, that I've gotten in relation to district things. I mean, I understand, and I'm very sensitive to the fact that there's a lot, as I know we get a lot of things. So I've seen it done before with surveys. That's
Yes.
why I think we're both thinking of it, because it's
Okay.
been done before.
When it's something that comes through my department, I'm always very aware of the feedback I get from parents and guardians, that at times it encroaches on too much. So I'm hyper aware of that. But as I said, if you direct me to do it, I absolutely will do that.
And I can appreciate the sensitivity, I just think maybe I would be willing to take that risk to put it out there and take some slack from some parents. You know, hey, why are you calling me at 6:30? On the most important decision we make, I would be perfectly okay to field all those calls.
Then we're going to forward them to you.
That's okay.
you need to leave. Well, I think what we need to do is make a motion and stuff before you leave, so,
Mr. President, if I may?
yes.
Riley Sutton with the Communications Office. An additional option that you could consider, given that we're doing this as a third-party independent survey and we're asking for more than just parent support, we're asking for community support, you might consider asking for an additional or an addendum to the RFP for doing a robocall across the district through Simon and Associates that would direct folks, again, beyond just parents, to complete the survey online. My personal experience with running those types of things is you're looking at maybe $500 for a district-wide robocall to again, everybody.
Everyone meaning all the families, all the employees, all the...
Everybody.
No,
Everybody.
every resident of the county with
Oh,
a
the county,
landline.
I thought you said
Yes.
district-wide. Okay, so county-wide.
Sorry, countywide, yes.
Oh, okay.
I hang up on those things. I don't even listen to them. Bang.
The danger of doing it through a Connect Ed is the more that we do Connect Eds, the more they will have a similar response
Oh, I
when
see
we
what
do
you
our
mean.
own. So this would preserve the third-party nature of this. And yes, robocalls do irritate some people, but it is an additional way
No,
to solicit
I
input
understand.
from a broader community.
It's preserving that third party.
So, Riley, I like the idea. I wouldn't be opposed necessarily to amending that RFP to allow for the robocalls. But, I have a little but, in that third-party response, that's all recorded, right, in the Connect Ed calls? So why couldn't we just have a third party give us the message, hey, this is Katie Simon from Simon and Associates. I want to let you know that we've been hired to conduct a survey about what, whatever the wording needs to be. So we're using an internal system, but a third party's delivering the message because it's kind of scripted, right? I'm just throwing that out there as using our system, still getting those parents, because we know that 120,000 list of phone numbers is good. Take it from somebody who did robocalls. There's a lot of bad numbers. And I'm not opposed to that because I think that shows a broader scope. And if you can truly do it for $500, maybe it's worth it. But I think it'd be worth it also to use our internal system with a third-party voice using our system.
Couple other points, if I might, Mr. President.
If you
Oh, go
just,
ahead.
because Mr.
I
Malloy.
want to add a comment about the robocall thing I'm concerned about. That implies amending the RFP as pointed out properly. And that's not on the agenda today, so I'd be careful with providing, if that's what you want to do, I'm not sure you can do it by action today.
I just wanted to add that I haven't ever done that process before, so I'd have to do that research and get guidance from folks on how to make that happen. That's not a capacity that I have. And the second piece is, I'm not a phone number or an email that most parents would recognize, and therefore many would delete it. And they will receive it from you all. I absolutely am sensitive to not wanting to overdo it with people.
You know, I hate to push this, but I'd like to get a motion on and voted on before our legal counsel leaves.
On the survey itself?
Yeah, just like's in the staff report under 201.
Okay.
Well, I'm happy to make a motion regarding the survey. I move that the Board of Trustees approves the community survey instrument as edited and amended by discussion here today, to be used to obtain community input in order to ascertain the desired characteristics of a person to be selected as superintendent for the Washoe County School District.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. In discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. So carried. Let the record show unanimously.
Okay. If I
Okay,
may.
now we can discuss this about
There
that.
may be something that we can do. Irene, couldn't we get hold of each of the television stations and ask for them to do a public service announcement for us?
Well, Irene Payne, for the record, Irene Payne, Chief of Communications and Community Engagement. We will absolutely be, the news media will be contacted because there will be a news release going from Simon and Associates to all the media. It's our distribution list, so it's fairly comprehensive. So I suspect they will cover it. They will at least cover it on their websites and put the link on their website. So that's, I suspect that will happen.
But if there were a public service announcement that they would guarantee us playing with the news programs in the evening, and each of the stations would commit to it, and I think they would if we asked them properly.
I'd leave
it
that
might
to
help.
Katie to
Katie?
I
answer.
think, yeah, and I think Irene and I are of the same mind on this, that the direction we had from you was that this be independent.
Fine.
And however, that being said, it is the board's search and selection process. So I will be sending out the news release. I will, I'm sure, get contacts. And I would recommend that I work with your staff to have you all do the public service announcement. I can certainly do it, but I think it's you that are asking the public to be the ones who respond. So I will work with your staff to make sure that it gets broadly distributed and that we do quick follow-up and make sure we're responsive.
And you know, I think you got to give a lot of thought to the Connect Ed, especially since this is an independent company doing it. Then you're going to get school insurance for children wanting to use Connect Ed, and you're going to get backpacks for children and everything. So once you open up that Connect Ed, it's like a dam breaking a leak, and you got to be careful about it. So I think we need to discuss that more in depth to see if there's hard copies at the schools, maybe the school can do a newsletter or something to their parents instead of opening up the Connect Ed, I think. Because you got to be real careful. There's people out there that would love to get access to that. Maybe even Sizzler's restaurant.
Yeah, your hand was up first, Nick. Go ahead.
So, just as a parent, I will tell you that, and maybe I shouldn't say this on public record, but we get a newsletter once a month, and who knows if we're actually going to get the newsletter from my kid's school. So I think that I hear the third party. I know we want to make it a third party. I would really advocate, obviously you know how I feel. I think that Connect Ed is a great means of communication. And like I said, in taking the wrath of those people who might be upset, I would be okay, asking the parents on the Connect Ed call to do that as a parent.
Yeah.
And as a trustee, I would be okay
I'm
with
not
that.
arguing that. I'm just arguing and not really arguing. I'm just saying you have to be careful in opening that up because they're going to want phone numbers and everything for everything.
Talking about
I'm
Connect Ed?
confused.
Connect Ed. Well, see, I see this as ours. I mean, this is, even though we're working with a consultant who we've hired to help us with this process, that message would be coming from us through the Connect Ed process, even though I'm trying to wrap my head around the third-party piece and the differentiation that I'm hearing the two of you talk about. So maybe I'm not understanding that completely, but if a Connect Ed message comes out that says we have a consultant that's gathering information, an input from the community, we'd like to encourage you to take part in it.
That's what we would do. Yes.
I mean, I'll just be honest, and maybe I shouldn't say this on the record. As a parent, I had forgotten about the parent climate survey, and if it wasn't for the email message or the Connect Ed that I got reminding me to do it, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I mean, again, I can't speak for all parents, but you're hearing from two parents at this table who are saying, we actually think that system works well to get information from the district. And yes, are there people who are not going to listen to it? Are they feeling a little saturated by it? Oh yeah, I can relate to that. And at the same time, this is one of the most important pieces of input that we're asking the community to give us to help us, inform us on our most important decision. So I don't think it opens the door to other third parties because this is ours, in terms of how I see it.
So to kind of address concerns, what we would probably do, what it makes sense to do, is to actually get the connected message recorded by President Mayer. So it's the president of the Board of Trustees who is asking parents and guardians to go to visit the website and to complete the survey. So it's not a third party. So we don't have to worry about opening the floodgates and allowing third party organizations access to our database.
And see, that's different.
Yes.
That's different. You all were talking about her company.
That's right. That was
everything.
the initial conversation.
And once you let her company in, you got to let $90 million companies that want a survey or whatever.
So I mean, if that's your guidance, that's your wish, that's what we can do. We will work with you, President Mayer. We'll get a connected call recorded, and then we'll work to get that, sent
Okay.
throughout the school district.
And now the dates for the survey going out was May
26th.
We had updated the timeline, and again, this is assuming board approval today, which you just did. We would propose to have the survey open next Tuesday, May 26th through June 18th, so that we can have time to have it compiled, translated, et cetera, and the analysis completed, so that Sarah can get it back to you all. We had originally hoped to make it for your June 23rd board meeting, and we can't make that schedule, so we had said to come back to you in a special meeting on June 30th, if that works for you all. And that is also when the contract ends. So.
Then it seems to make sense, doesn't it?
Barbara's going to be at Wimbledon, I think, come
Ooh,
June
lucky
30th.
you.
She's playing in the mixed doubles.
Masters,
Really
the
skating on thin
Masters
ice.
division. That's the senior Masters
No,
division, yes.
She's a,
Me and John McEnroe.
yeah.
Love it.
Division.
So maybe we'll wait until after July 4th.
We can do that. We'll have to then amend the agreement, because my work for you on advice of the staff ends on June 30th. So we can, but we would have to bring that back to you in a future meeting. We have time to do that. So that's fine. If you want to bring it back in July. The only concern is that it starts to get stale. And people are going to be chomping at the bit to
What's
find out what the
happening,
results
yeah.
are.
And just for information, just to throw this out, we're not the only school district looking for a superintendent. Douglas County, Pershing County, and White Pine County are all losing their superintendents. White Pine's not until next June, but the others are, so 4 out of the 17 school districts so far are looking for superintendents.
Which is another reason that you might want to have it in June instead of in July. You'll be out till the second, typically you would be out till the second Tuesday in July. It's your decision, your direction to me. Do you want me to come back target to come back the 30th? I appreciate that it's problematic for some trustees.
Well, the thing about the 30th is just that since this is the single most important thing that we do, I'd like to see if we can work around. I mean, she's going to be in another country. She yeah, so
She's
it's
gonna
not,
be at
so it'd be
Wimbledon.
difficult to call in. No, she won't quite be playing Masters division at Wimbledon, but she'll be in Ireland.
Mixed doubles.
Mixed doubles.
Well, it'll be 10 o'clock at night where you are, so you can, just kidding, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think that if I mean, it's important that we all be available in some way. I mean, either by phone or here, and if that's not feasible because you're in Europe, Barbara, then we need to wait.
And you're back on the 8th?
No, I'm back on the 2nd.
On the 2nd, perhaps then it calls for a special meeting that next week.
And I don't have my calendar with me. What date would that
That's
be?
the week of the 6th.
Okay. Okay. Does that work for everyone?
And because it's just so critical that we do that.
Absolutely.
And this, I mean, in that case, if we do it, then it means it's going to cost us about a week.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
worth it waiting for a week to 10 days to get everybody here.
Can
I
do,
think.
and that just gives us time to have the translation of open-ended comments
Right.
and data
Might be
entry
better
and,
in the long run.
yeah. Okay, all right, we'll shoot
right.
for that then. Okay, that's all I have today, and I welcome any other questions, comments.
Well, I
Thank
want,
you.
on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to thank you for all of your hard work, both of the ladies. This is tremendous. I think it's a step that we needed to do, and I appreciate all the hard work.
Well,
And
thank
just
you.
coordinating time to talk to all of us takes a magician to make that happen. So,
Well, and as you know, your staff did the heavy lifting here, so again, kudos to your team, and thank you for the opportunity, and apologies for being late, but thanks for all the good work. It really has taken a team to get here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to, we have our next policy board meeting. Oh, yeah. Is there any public comment? Any of the public want to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll adjourn, and the policy committee, let's wait and start 5 minutes after 2.
Fine.
It gives everybody a chance.